it's Caitlin. I am just back with another vlog video today, and I thought it would be super fun to do a questionnaire type answer comment video about my labor and delivery story. It was definitely a crazy time, but I thought that it would be super awesome if I could share my experience with you guys. So I have a list of questions on my little laptop over here, and I just think that it'd be really awesome if I could explain to you what happened to me. So maybe like there's other moms that are going through the process of having a baby and don't really know what to expect. Again, it is going to be different for everybody, but I hope this helps, and I hope that everything goes great with your delivery. So the first question that I'm going to answer is who can be with me during delivery/birth. I was very fortunate, and I was able to have, of course, my husband, and I was able to have my mom and my dad. So my dad, of course, stayed up at the top, and my mom helped me push, and so did my husband, and everything was so awesome during like when I was pushing, and it was like the best experience having my family there. You're also going to have your nurse practitioner or a nurse practitioner there that is going to help you through the pushing process, and hopefully that you get an epidural. If you're doing it naturally, kudos to you. You're freaking amazing, because I had a horrible time with the contractions. But back to the birth part. Who can be with you? I believe that most people allow you to have 2 people, most hospitals, but we were fortunate enough to be going into a hospital birth room that was humongous. It had a hot tub in there. There were so many different spaces for people. So I had a lot of my family visiting, and I had a lot of people coming and saying hello to us. But I was very fortunate to have both my parents and my husband while I was giving birth. Okay, so the next question is, how will I know when to push? So that was a very hard topic to think about, because I did not know when to push. My contractions were so over the top and crazy because I got induced, that when I got my epidural, I could not feel anything. I did not feel one thing. The only thing that I could do is like move my upper abdomen and my arms. I could not feel anything below like my mid-abdomen section and down. I could not. It was like crazy. So there's a monitor usually like right next to you. It was on my left side when I was having my son, and the contractions, they go up like this and then they go down. So what my nurse explained to me is that you need to push during your contractions. So I would watch the monitor, and then when she would tell me to push, I would push for a whole 10 seconds, like breathe in and then hold the breath and then push during that 10-second interval. And it happened like so fast. It was so crazy. I think I pushed for about like not even 10 minutes, and my son was there. So it was really fast. The next question was, how long will I push? Again, it's going to be different for everybody, but for my personal experience, I push no more than 10 minutes. But that's because when I pushed really hard. And I know this sounds really weird, but when you push, you don't want to push with your abdomen. You want to push like you're trying to like go to the bathroom. I know that sounds so crazy, but that was like the best tip that my aunt gave me, was when you're pushing, push like you're trying to like poop, basically. Okay, the next question is, what if the baby doesn't deliver even though I'm pushing hard? Well, babies' heads are going to be really big, and that happens a lot. Usually what they'll do is they'll cut you sometimes, like cut you down, so that way the baby's head can go through a little bit better. You don't want to over push yourself and try to push just to get them out. It's gonna hurt, obviously, but when I was pushing, again, I did not feel a single thing, so I was really lucky in that department, but a lot of moms obviously aren't that lucky. Okay, so the next question is, will I need an episiotomy? For those who don't know what an episiotomy is, it's basically when they surgically like tear you down, so that way, or like kind of make a incision like down there, so that way the baby's head will fit a little bit better. I did not need an episiotomy just because like I couldn't feel anything, so I just pushed really hard and I ended up ripping really bad. But most women do end up needing episiotomies just because you would rather it's better for you to surgically tear than to tear on your own, because when you're getting the stitches afterwards, it's a lot easier for the doctor to stitch you up when they've made the incision than if you tear naturally, because if you tear naturally, then it's kind of rigid on how it tears. Next question is, when can I nurse my baby? So I am exclusively breastfeeding, and I have been breastfeeding for about 3 months now, so my son is pretty happy about that. When can I nurse my baby? Again, it's going to be different and vary for different moms, different babies. I know a lot of babies end up having tongue ties, which means like the little thing underneath your tongue is connected all the way to the tip, so it's harder for a lot of babies to nurse. Fortunately, my son, he latched as soon as I had him, like as soon as they brought him up to me, he latched on perfectly. And then for a lot of moms, it's harder because a lot of moms' milk don't come in for the few days, but my milk came in literally the day after I had him. So it was a crazy experience. Everything happened for me really fast. So the next question is, how often are exams performed during labor? So for me, I had so many exams, but that's just because when you get induced, there's many ways to be induced. They can put the medicine in your IV and then you can have it that way, but I ended up having a strip, which is a long paper-like strip, and then they insert it into your cervix. So I had a lot of doctors and nurses adjusting that, but I'm not even kidding. I honestly don't even remember how many nurses I had checking me, just because they have to check you so many times to see where you are dilated. I know at least every hour to 45 minutes, maybe even half an hour, a person will come in there and check you, and you're at the point where you're like, I don't even care. You're there to have your baby, and people are going to check you, and you're just there to deal with it. So the next question is, are showering and bathing allowed during labor? So this was a really good question, because we had a hot tub in our birthing room, and basically they're kind of iffy on if you can take a bath, just because they don't want any water getting into your uterus or by the baby, just because it can cause an infection, especially if your water has already broken. I think you are allowed to shower, but once you get that epidural in your system, you're not going to be able to walk or do anything, even go to the bathroom on your own. So you have to be really hyper vigilant and kind of like watching what you're doing, especially if you're wanting to do that, because you're going to have to call a nurse, and you're just going to have to be really careful, because if you are doing it naturally, those contractions are going to be very painful, and if you aren't doing it naturally, the medication can cause some type of like reaction, and you might not want to be walking around. Eating and drinking during labor. So I was on a strict like no food, only clear liquid, so I was allowed to have Jello. That was one of the pluses. I was eating so much Jello, drinking a lot of Sprite, water especially. And then once I had him, I was like eating everything. I was eating pizza and sandwiches, and oh my gosh, I think I ate like a whole pizza to myself, but we're not gonna go there because, you know. Okay, what labor positions are recommended? So I only was in one position, and that's just like when you're on your back and your feet are in the stirrups and then you're pushing. I know that a lot of moms that have birth at home, they do like water baths, and they ended up doing what is it, when they're on all fours. I feel like that's the most natural way to have a baby, but I was on my back and had my legs in stirrups, so that's how that went. Okay, I'm just gonna do 2 more questions. Okay, can your partner cut the umbilical cord? My husband ended up cutting the umbilical cord. I know that most hospitals let people do that, and that is a very intimate way to get close to your baby, and just to, you know, my husband was so amazing during, you know, my journey of having a baby. It was so awesome. So my husband was allowed to. I know that like if there's some type of like medical issue, a lot of doctors and nurses will end up cutting it, just in case, like, you know, in case the baby has the umbilical cord wrapped around or something like that. If you are in a healthy state and the baby is as well, I don't think that there should be an issue on why the partner wouldn't be able to cut the umbilical cord, but it depends on everybody. Okay. The next question was, how long will I be able to stay in the hospital, and can I leave earlier if I want to? So I was in the hospital for about 3 days. 3.5 days. My son ended up having some jaundice issues, which means, you know, something was wrong with his liver and he was turning a little bit yellowish, orangish, so we stayed a little bit longer for him, and I had very, very low iron after I had my son. So my hemoglobin, which is my blood count, was very, very low, and so they wanted to monitor that as well. And it was very, very crazy. He ended up having like a tumor in one of his armpits and stuff like that, so they wanted to make sure that they could keep an eye on that, but now he is very, very healthy, and I am as well, so that is awesome. And then the last question, who will care for your children when it is time to go to the hospital? So I don't have any other children, but it just depends. It's always good to have a plan, just in case, like, you know, your parents obviously want to be at the hospital, but you should definitely pick somebody that you trust to watch your children, whether it be an aunt or uncle or grandparents of yours, godparents, something like that. Always have a backup. A lot of hospitals will let other children go into the hospital with you, but if you do have a lot of children, they might not be so, you know, lenient on that. So I would just always have a plan on how many kids you have and who can watch them, and just to be on the safe side. Thank you guys so much for watching. I definitely had a lot of fun answering these questions. There are definitely more videos to come, so if you would like to come back and watch us, we would greatly appreciate it.